Hello, ODAC Cross Country fans, and welcome to the 2022 edition of the ODAC Cross Country Roundtable Preview Discussion. My name is JJ Nekoloff. I'm the Associate Commissioner with the Old Dominion Athletic Conference, and I have three of our head coaches here with us. We've got Jake Reed from the University of Lynchburg, Andrew Marrocco from Shenandoah University, and Brandon Spalding from Washington Lee. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having us, JJ.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to having a banner season this year. Had a great one last year coming back from COVID after we weren't able to compete the prior campaign. But lots of good things to talk about here coming into this season. Try to get through it as best we can to make sure everybody gets the details they're looking for. And I'm going to start with the polls that we've got coming out from the USTFCCCA. ODAC is featured in each of the South region polls fairly heavily. With Lynchburg, Washington Lee, and Bridgewater on the men's side being ranked, Lynchburg, Washington, Bridgewater, and Shenandoah on the women's side having rankings. The ones that stand out there are the national rankings that we have for three of you, with Jake with your men's and women's programs both nationally ranked, and Brandon with Mike Dager's squad down there at Washington Lee being ranked. Jake, though, let's talk about your men to start off with. Your first ranked number 11 in the country coming in. Why are they ranked that high? How good are you going to be this year?
Yeah, I mean, with a lot of people returning in the season that we had last year, we're really not losing anyone in the top five. Arguably, a lot of people interchanging in the top seven, so we have almost everyone back. We also are adding in some young pieces. We had key transfer Marco. That's, we'll see how he fits in. Chasen Hunt, our freshman, I think could be in the mix. But with the returning group we have, it's going to be hard to split up that top seven that we had last year. And I think this year, just even being more healthy than we were last year coming in, it's getting, we're getting off to a good start. Just got to keep it rolling.
Brandon, talk a little bit about your squad at Washington Lee. 23-point difference in the ODAC championship last season between Lynchburg at number 1 and Washington Lee at number 2. You're ranked 4 in the region coming in. Talk about your guys this year.
Yeah, certainly the region has really stepped up its game in the last few years. We felt like we ran pretty well mid-season last year with our effort at Paul Short, and then at Rowan we had knocked off Christopher Newport then, but we didn't really have things come together for us down the stretch. We ran conference championship without Hayden Roberts, who ended up being an all-region runner for us come regionals, but we faded back to that 5th place position. We lost some guys from last year, but we certainly have some runners who have a chance to fill in. We have a key transfer this year, running as a grad transfer for us. Charles Scharf ran at Dickinson College, was a national qualifier individually in cross country last year, and he's a tremendous addition for us and has really been leading us through the preseason. But having Josh Fingerhut, Hayden Roberts, Chris Ruiz are other guys who I expect to contribute for us. But we're excited for a competitive schedule during the regular season to prepare us well for the postseason.
We look at Bridgewater's also ranked in the region, in the South region for the ODAC. It's sitting there at number 10. Any one of you three talk a little bit about what you kind of expect out of the Eagles men's side this year?
Yeah, I'll take on. I'm the poll coordinator for the men's poll on the South region rankings, and I really see Bridgewater as one of the most improved teams in the region this year. Certainly had some great performances on the track, more so on kind of 1500, but starting to have some depth performances for 5K. I know they have about 4 or 5 newcomers come in, and Phil Spitzer has done a great job since being a mid-year hire for Bridgewater coming in that January-February range, and looking forward to him, his squad into the fall and being competitive within the South region.
Yeah. Switch gears and go to the women's side. Jake, we come back to you. Ranked number 1 in the South region, 26 nationally with your women's squad. We know you bring a lot back, maybe missing that number 1 runner that was Stephanie Burnett last season, but talk a little bit about your squad coming into this year.
Yeah, they look strong, and obviously we had some huge development from the cross country to the track season last year, and I think that's a lot of the reason why we're getting our ranking. But now the big question is, can we translate those track performances onto the cross country course? And taking some of those 1500 meter runners like Lauren Massey and Molly Silva, and how does that translate this year coming into the cross? And what is that growth and development going to look like from the spring to the fall? Do we get another big jump like we got last year from fall to spring? Looking strong. I expect big things out of them. I think it'll be a great year for our women.
Yeah, Brandon, Mike Dager, squad ranked number 32 in the country, number 3 in the region. Talk a little bit about what the WNL women are going to look like this year.
Yeah, they had a key runner graduate in Avery Schiffman, who was a all-region runner-up in the conference last year, but have a lot of continuity returning. Carolyn Todd is who I would think Mike would expect to lead the team this coming year. A lot of first years got good experience for them last year. So I think in that sophomore junior range, they have a number of runners with a chance to emerge and compete on that postseason level as we get towards November.
Yeah, Andy, kind of moved to you there with Shenandoah. You're ranked number 9 in the region, Bridgewater number 8 in the region. Let's have you talk about your squad here first. Love to see you get in the rankings there for it. How good do you think your women are going to be this year?
Sure. So, the continuity coming back from last year, we're losing our number 5 to a transferring out. But several of our freshmen that were more developmental had big breakthroughs on the track. We did beat Bridgewater last year at conferences and regionals, but looking at how track progressed, Bridgewater, similar to what Jake was saying with Lynchburg, they had a lot of good breakthrough performances come track that I think are going to really impact their cross country season. So I'm excited to see what the ODAC as a whole looks like. With Jake's doing a phenomenal job. Having that number 1 spot in the region is very well earned. Mike Dager always keeps his cards close to the chest, but I think he's got a good squad that is really going to battle it out. And then us and Bridgewater, I think it's going to be a very, very interesting season. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, let's stick on the women's side right now as we take a look at maybe some of that ODAC picture, if you will. Got some coaching changes this year, both men's and women's side. We're talking about directors across country, that sort of thing. But on the women's side, a little bit closer in the standings. Last year, 7 points different between Lynchburg and Washington and Lee. But do we see any progression from some of the other places, or we see people that maybe are top runners where the team score might not translate into a higher ranking at the ODAC championship come to the end of the season, but maybe somebody hops in there in that top 7 and challenges at a regional perspective. So I'll open it up to any of the 3 of you, talk a little bit about the women's side there and what we can expect from the rest of the conference.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a battle. I mean, Mike's welcoming in the biggest team he's had ever. And I think that battle up front is going to be really fun like it was last year. I think you look back at last year's race, I think it was about 4K, 5K in, they were up on us. And that last K we were able to close down. And I think individually, I know Kelsey Lagunas won the ODAC title last year, but Stephanie Burnett overall was by far the best runner in the ODAC last year. And now that door is a little bit open. Does Kelsey repeat? You got, I think Sarah James is going to be in the mix for us, Carolyn Todd. I'm sure WNL's got a couple other runners, but it's going to be a battle for the individual as well as the team. And then there'll be another battle with Bridgewater and Shenandoah right behind, as Andy alluded to. Does that track progression carry over, or does Andy win out on the cross side of things? Because I know they got a nice course to practice on and to really get you ready for cross country. It's his whole course. That's got to be an advantage.
Yeah, and we'll get to that course here in a minute here and have Andy talk about it. But want to slide to the men's side here real fast. Brandon, come back to you. We talked a little bit before we kind of started recording here about what the men could look like, and I asked you a question of who's going to challenge there at the top, because we have that 22-point difference. What do you see for the rest of the conference right now? Can somebody come and maybe track down Lynchburg from behind?
Yeah, I certainly hope that we can close the gap to even that single-digit range. I mean, Jake's got a fantastic squad. I mean, being top 15 in the country, we're knocking on the door of those spots nationally. Last year, I know, just like any other team, dealing with bumps and bruises at the tail end, and sometimes in this sport, you just got to get lucky down the stretch. But I certainly think that we're going to be able to close the gap a little bit. And as much as we would like to win conference, we still want to focus on bigger goals of regionally and nationally. And even Jake and I talked about this summer. I mean, we would love to see 3 and 4 South Region teams making the national meet, and I think we all are setting up our schedules accordingly to put ourselves in the best position to match up against other regions and potentially have at-large bids. Obviously coming from the 2 spot like it did last year, but we hope that our region could be even 3 and 4 teams deep. So we're really looking forward to the competition. I think it's great that two of the better teams in our region are in the ODAC, and we're excited to match up against the likes of Emory, Christopher Newport, Barry as we progress through this fall.
So let's start with some of the coursework here, and Andy, we come back to you with this. You've got your annual Hornet Harrier and Commonwealth Challenger is kind of lumped in there with the ODAC preview. So we're going to see a lot of teams there. It's the first chance they'll get to see the Kernstown Battlefield course, which will be the host of this year's ODAC Championship come Halloween weekend, I believe. Talk a little bit about the setup, what you've got out there. You've hosted this championship before, but what might be a little bit different? What's the same maybe? And how's the course going to set up for everybody out there?
Well, the start is certainly the same, and that's what kind of shocks and awe a lot of runners when they get there. New to this year, however, once you get to the crest of the start hill at that 300-meter point, we no longer break left and go up the fence line. We go straight through the fence line into the woods. So now it's a 650-meter straightaway before the first turn. So I think that really helps the beginning portion of that race where people are still jockeying for position and there's no fighting for the turn. The field can kind of spread out on its own, natural path. The 6K course and the 8K course since the last time we hosted are both significantly faster with the addition of the 1 mile south field. I believe that was part of the men's course in 2018, but not the women's. We worked that into the women's course for starting last year to make it a little less challenging. That mile loop is pancake flat, and we were working out on it this morning and the team absolutely loved it. So it's as well groomed as it's always been. It's challenging, it's got its hills, but we keep it very well groomed, so the footing is good, the energy return, you're not running through mud and tall grass and whatnot. So challenging, but a very fair competitive course.
Very good. We're looking forward to that. We've had some really good courses throughout all the members here of the ODAC. We've got places that host in different spots, hilly and flat and whatnot. I loved coming to Kernstown a couple of years ago, watching that one. I just think it's kind of a neat place as well. A little bit different type of atmosphere. So looking forward to that. But I know that you all compete at several meets throughout the year, some of them more workouts, some of them actual benchmarks you're looking for. And it's that type of meet I want to talk about here as we start to wind down a little bit. What are the benchmarks for some of you, some of the events, some of the meets that you're going to that are actually places where you want to see how your runners are going to do against some of the top teams, not only in this region, but maybe some of the other regions, that kind of give you a gauge for the rest of the year? And I'll just open that to any of the three of you that want to touch on that, of some of the meets that we as the public and fans of ODAC cross country should keep our eye on.
Yeah, I think certainly I can lead off that the first few weekends of September, I think everyone's just really trying to still continue to see what they're working with, what runners are going to emerge, how their depth is looking. A lot of teams are doing time trials this time of year for preseason, but for all three of us, and even our women's program progressing towards Christopher Newport on September 16th. They're going to be our region host in November. They're going to host, and I think right now, it's going to be about a 16 to 18 team meet. Really competitive. I'm drawing a lot of Virginia South Region schools, but some are making the trip to preview the course. CNU has hosted 2 different times over the last 10 years, and it's the exact same course that we're all familiar with. And each of us have had individual success there, and I know we're looking forward to having team success there. So I would say early on in this season, everyone's kind of got September 16th circled on their calendar before they start looking a little deeper into October.
Gentlemen, either the two of you, any meets you guys are looking for, maybe not specifically just for your program, but to gauge the rest of the league too?
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead, Jake. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, Paul Short's huge for us, but I also think it's a huge one for just interregional competition. I know, Rowan will be a big one for interregional competition. I know Brandon's heading up there in October. For us, it's about getting a Paul Short and getting buried. We want to get up there. We want to compete against some of the best teams, regardless of division, and kind of get that national meet feel. Because I think sometimes, especially the Division III pre-nats, a lot of Division III schools can't travel, so the field kind of can get watered down at times, and it doesn't have the same feel or capacity of nationals. And I think that's important to us this year, is making sure we get in the meet that has that same feel, has that same depth, in a place that you're really going to get buried and have to dig yourself out. So I'm really excited for that, and excited to see what some of the other teams in our region can do at some of those interregional meets.
Yep, Andy.
Yeah, Jake already mentioned the rowing meet. I know with all those schools in New York, New Jersey, the Philadelphia region, and then some of us more northern programs. I believe all three of us on this call will be at that meet. Very big competitive meet, very fair course, similar to how the regional course rolls. So with that being the last meet before the ODAC championships, I think that's going to be really the final, not predictor of how ODAC will go, but certainly a final tell of where everybody stands.
You know, talking about ODAC championship we did before, you mentioned that Christopher Newport is going to host the regional at Lee Hall Mansion. Talk a little bit about maybe the differences between those two courses, because the regional is going to come up 2 weeks after the ODAC championship, and that's going to say who's going to go ahead and go to the NCAA championship. Give us a feeling on some of that. I'll let any of you go ahead and handle that.
I think from historically, when we've hosted conferences in 2018, as well as when we hosted regionals in 2015, I think the turnaround from our course to the next one is how smart they race it. Not necessarily how fast, not necessarily who won, but how smart they ran it. I know in 2015, both Hannah Chapel-Dick and Tim Smith won the regional, went on to nationals to be All-American.
Harrison Tony.
Was it Harrison
yourself
Tony?
on Tim.
Oh, my bad. Okay. So either way, they went on to be All-Americans coming off of a regional on our course. And I thought they ran that course, our course here at Shenandoah, I thought they ran it extremely well. Our course, that first 1K is very, very hard. If you push out hard in the beginning, you might come out on top at the end, but you did it a very hard way of winning that. So going from our conference championships to this year's region, I think is just going to come down to not necessarily who was the fastest, but who ran it well to reap that positive turnaround going 2 weeks later at regionals.
Yep, and as we wrap up here, Brandon, I'm going to put you on the spot. Tell us about the national course this year, where it's at, what's it going to be like, and what's our weather going to be?
Yeah, so we'll be in Lansing, Michigan. TBD on weather. Likely cooler, but who knows? It is hosted by Olivet College in Michigan, and they will be hosting at the Forest Acres Golf Course, which is actually Michigan State's golf course and their home cross country course. There will be a pre-national meet there beginning of October that some teams around the country are heading towards, but it'll be their first time hosting nationals. It always seems to find its way into the Midwest area. A lot of competitive teams, and they would never let Andy host nationals as much as he wants to. Maybe someday, but it needs to be a little more flat and wide open. That seems to be the general consensus of the country. But yeah, certainly looking forward to an ODAC presence out there. And I wanted to just backtrack a little bit on thinking about when we get to rowing, when we get to Paul Short, it always seems like that in October, you got to go north or you got to go Midwest to find the best cross country races. But certainly want to put in a plug for Roanoke hosting in mid-October. I know a number of our ODAC schools will be down there, and it's good to see that we're getting a mid-October option for a number of our teams that maybe aren't competing for that national level, but trying to be in the right place for conference championship. And I think Roanoke's a good course to compete on 2 weeks before heading into the Andes. But Andy's right. Hopefully all of us in the ODAC can take some lessons from his course and make sure that we've executed the proper way to have a great ODAC performance at regionals and hopefully nationals.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing if you guys can do that. Looking forward to the qualifiers up in Michigan, even though I'm an Ohio State guy, I have my own thoughts on Michigan, if you will. So I'll leave that one right there. But gentlemen, I'll leave you and the rest of the coaches with a little bit of a challenge. Jake, the challenge is different for you because since 2013, we've had one school that has won both men's and women's championships for the ODAC. So you have the chore of trying to continue that trend, and everybody else has the chore of trying to break it. So leave you guys with that. Good luck this year. We look forward to seeing you out there.
Thanks, JJ.
Thanks, JJ. Good seeing
Yeah,
you,
thanks for
gentlemen.
having us on. Good luck, guys.